Hello, everyone, and welcome to Raquel Teaches Web Development. My name is Raquel, and today I'm going to be showing you how to use HTML to display computer code on a web page. All right, so this lesson I'm giving you is based on the lesson that's available at W3 Schools. I'm going to show you where that is here on the browser, and you'll also see a link for this tutorial in the description for this video. So I'm going to go through how to use these elements to display code. Now, you may be wondering, why would someone want to use HTML to display computer code on a web page? Well, one of the big reasons is that a lot of times as web developers, we might be creating web pages that are for documentation, right? Either for a client or for ourselves, if say we're working on a project that we need to give instructions for clients, or say we're working on an open source project, right? And we need to be showing samples of the code input and output and such. So that's the reason why you would want to use HTML to display that kind of content on a web page. And fortunately, HTML does have specific elements, tags to display computer code. So I'm going to go over those in the code editor now. So let's go ahead and switch to the code editor, right? And you can see that I have prepared some of this code already and I've commented it out. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be uncommenting it bit by bit so you can see how the code goes together, how it works, and then I'll be showing you how it looks on a screen, right? So right now, this document right now, I do have it open in the browser here in this tab, but as you can see, it is blank. So as I uncomment it and save and make the changes, when we refresh, we'll see what that looks like. Okay, so the first thing we're going to go over is how to display keyboard input. So let me switch to that. Okay, so uh, first I'm going to uncomment the code, right? Oh, actually, let me just. So one thing you should note that in Visual Studio Code, the way to you can comment and uncomment stuff very easily by using Control Z. Okay, if you're not into using keyboard shortcuts, you can usually go to, I believe it's the, let me see, is it edit? Yeah, edit. I'm sorry, it's not Control Z, it's Control slash. Sorry about that. Control slash is what lets you toggle between setting something to comment status and taking out of comment status. And you'll see that in the edit menu under toggle line comment. And you also have an option of highlighting a block of code and setting that to a comment, or you can use the keyboard shortcut with this Shift plus Alt plus A. All right. But since I'm using mostly just single lines, I'm just doing Control slash. So anyway, that's what I did. I uncommented this. And so the first element that we're going to see how to use is called the keyboard element, right? And so the keyboard element, what it does is that it lets you display key presses in a specific way, so people can see that that's separate from the content text on the screen, right? And so that will display it in like a monospace type font. And you use that by using the keyboard element. And so that keyboard element is KBD, as you see here. It is a it does have a closing tag, so you do need to insert an opening tag and a closing tag. And the way you use it is just that you insert whatever you want to display as a keyboard press in between those opening and closing keyboard tags, right? So you can see in here that I've created a paragraph, and that after that paragraph test, I use the keyboard element. And what I'm saying is I'm indicating that the keyboard press is using the control key plus F. All right. So since I've uncommented that, I'm going to save that change. We're going to go ahead and switch to the browser here and refresh and see what that looks like. All right. Oops, refresh. Okay. So, and let me see if I can zoom in there. I'm afraid that might be a little too small. Still haven't figured out how to make that look extra large for you guys, but that's really big. But okay, so you can see here that it displays the Control F in a different font than it does the rest of that text, right? So that's what the keyboard element looks like. It will display that in a different font. All right. So let's switch back to our code editor. So the next one that we have here is for displaying code. And this is actually a block of code I need to uncomment here. So let me uncomment that, right? And so to this code is exactly what it sounds like, right? It's the stuff that we've been doing here in this HTML course and what you'll be doing in other courses from this channel, like JavaScript and stuff like that. And so for this example, what I've done is I've gone ahead and pasted in some code that's used to create an array in JavaScript. Okay. And so what the way I do it is that I use the code element, that's CODE. And of course, that also has a closing code tag. So you want to make sure you use that as well. And then between the opening and closing code tags, you're going to insert the programming code that you want displayed here. Okay. So we're going to display that JavaScript array code. So let's go. Now that I've uncommented, I'm going to save those changes and we're going to switch back to the browser and we're going to refresh that. And now you see it does pretty much the same thing, right? It displays the code in a separate, different, let me stop saying separate, in a different monospace font, right? So it's very clear what's the code versus what is the content that's being added, what is the text that's being added there. Okay, so now when we go back to our code editor, we can see the next example here. So this one is for displaying variables. And so this one is useful. Let me uncomment this here. The variable display element is useful for displaying variables, not just for programming code, but also when you're discussing maybe mathematical equations, right? So sometimes this is helpful when you're explaining how to work math problems out. Sometimes those math problems are a part of a programming exercise or project or requirement. And so using that variable tag helps with that display. Now the variable tag, what it does is it actually displays that variable in an italic type font, not a monospace font. So we're going to see what that looks like. So the variable tag, I've used it here in two ways. First of all, it's VAR, that's the tag. It has an opening and closing tag, as we see here, right? And so in this first example, I'm using it to display a variable for subcode. And again, in this example, I've chosen to just display a JavaScript variable, all right, where it's accessing the DOM. And then in the second example, I'm using it in the format of a mathematical expression, right? So I'm here, just a simple example of how to calculate the area of a rectangle. So let's go ahead and save. Now that I've uncommented that, let's go ahead and save. And let's switch back to the browser. And let's refresh. Okay, and so now in this example, we see that the JavaScript variable is displayed in italics, right? And then when it's talking about the mathematical expression here, those variables are displayed in italics, whereas the rest of the sentence is not, right? So that's how the var variable, oops, I'm clicking in the wrong area. That's how the var element tag works. All right, so let's go back to our code editor again. And we're going to check out this last example, which is sample program output, right? So let's uncomment that. And this is just to, again, show what a program should be displaying once it is run, right? Meaning, like, it might give someone an error message, or if it gives a success message, this is the time that you would use this sample program output. And so the element for that is SAMP, it's SAMP, right? And again, this has a closing tag just like the other ones do. And so in this example, I'm just, again, using it as a way to display something that should display on the screen. Okay, so let's go ahead and save that change and let's switch back to the browser and let's refresh that. Right, and so we see here that it displays those two lines, file not found, and press F1 to continue. Now, one of the things that I do want to point out is that, I'm sorry, I just noticed somebody commenting in the chat, but I have no idea what they're saying. One of the things I do want to point out is that you may notice that, hey, all these different elements are displaying the output or code in that same font. So what difference does it make whether or not I use keyboard versus sample versus, something else? And so here's the thing, HTML is created using semantic elements, right? Meaning that each element has a meaning, and those meanings will be picked up by search engines, right? So just because it displays the same to us doesn't mean it means the same thing to a search engine or to other programs and devices that might be scanning this. Say, for instance, devices and programs that help with accessibility, they may be scanning it as well. And so you don't want to use the same element over and over just because it looks the same to you, because the meaning of it is different. So you always want to be sure that when you're coding in HTML that you are using tags that are semantically correct or appropriate. All right, so just be mindful of that when you're selecting which elements to code your pages with. All right. So that's it for today. Those are the quick and simple elements that you can use to display code and its output in various ways on a web page. All right. If you found this tutorial helpful, please take a moment and click the like button. If you'd like to be notified of future live streams, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. It's for free. All right. Thanks again for checking in. Yeah, thanks again for checking in. I hope that you found this helpful. Oh, one more thing. I did start using a new microphone today. So if you find that this audio is better than it has been previously, please leave me a comment below. I like to know, get some feedback so I can be sure that I'm on the right track with making sure I deliver a quality experience to everyone. But thanks again for checking in. Have a good day and God bless.